Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, the YouTube channel and podcast that celebrates the fact that this global fan base of Celtic is all over the world. From Zoar to Zagreb, from Mount Florida to Mount Everest, wherever you are in this big old planet, you're part of A Celtic World. Welcome along. Brian, do you know where Zoar is?
I don't, but I'm finding it hard to hear you. I don't know if it's me or... Hello?
I think it is you, Brian, because I can hear Paul crystal clear.
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff.
I can hear you perfect. Thank you.
Well,
back in the room.
Okay, he's back. No idea where Zoar is. Ian, do you know where Zoar is?
I'm going to guess Africa.
Oh. Well, it isn't. Because we always start with somewhere in Scotland and then somewhere elsewhere. So Zoar is apparently a tiny little hamlet on the outskirts of Forfar.
Really?
Apparently. Because I wanted to do Zagreb, obviously. And I was like, well, is there anywhere in Scotland that's got a Z? I didn't think I'd turn anything up. But apparently Zoar. It used to be a pub called the Zoar Inn, but it's since closed. But I found some historical stuff on it. Not much. It's pretty tiny. It's not actually on a map other than the closed pub. But yeah, there we go. Somebody will probably, some smart arse in the comments will tell me that there's no place called Zoar anymore. But there we go. Brian, how are you doing?
Not too bad. Grand. Perfect. Yeah, we've got very, very happy with proceedings at the minute. Looking forward to the cup final. Yeah.
Good. And I believe you missed the match. You were on a carol service.
My son was singing in a Christmas concert thing, so I missed the game. But the sounds of things I didn't miss too much. But I was sitting in the church or whatever, and I had my phone here, sort of watching it going through on Bet365, and my my son who wasn't there, my son who wasn't singing, kept poking me and stuff like that. Daddy, you're embarrassing me. So there you are. I'm officially the dad of the in-betweeners.
Well, fair enough. And I assume you didn't spend time watching the whole game back, given what you heard about it afterwards.
What was the back? I watched the YouTube highlights. There's a couple of items of notice, but yeah, it was, take a point. I'm happy enough for that.
We'll get into it. You're breaking up a bit, Bryce, so we'll move swiftly on to Ian in Wales. Ian, how are you doing, mate?
Cold. I invested in a heated gilet. That's how cold it is for the school run, which I have to say has been well worth it. I've been contemplating it for a couple of years, and this year Black Friday got me, and I thought, let's have it. If anything, on its hottest setting, too warm, Paul, too warm. But yeah, good, but cold.
Well, that's a nice segue into too warm. If you or any of the viewers catch me mopping my brow, it's because we're in the middle of a bloody early summer heat wave in WA in Perth. I was just telling the guys before we came on air, 36 Tuesday, 40 yesterday, horrific, and 37 today. It's dipped to about 29 now that it's a bit after 5. But it's too hot. The air conditioning is struggling. No requirement for a heated gilet. And as I was saying off air, I've had to invest in a pair of linen pants, trousers for the Scots, because I can't wear business clothing in this weather. It's absolutely ridiculous. So there we go. If you're in the comments, a few of you are watching live, if you're in the comments, give us a shout. Nothing too much going on there as is, which is strange, but I'm sure we'll hear from everyone soon. I'll just stick up what we're going to cover today. So I don't know, what is it? It's been a bit over 36 hours or something since the game. Nearly, I don't know. I've lost bearings on it. But there's been a lot of dialogue and follow-up following the match against Zagreb, or Dinamo Zagreb the other night. The dust settles, and breathe is like, we've got a chance to breathe and digest. Let's see how we feel. At this point, I feel like the panel might be one extreme to the other, and I might be floating around in the middle potentially, but we'll get into that. I think the more interesting point to discuss is around that, is how we're feeling now. Where does that leave us, and we're here. As we know, the game wasn't great, but we will touch on kind of a debrief on the match and just sort of what we thought the key points during the actual playing time was, and then that'll lead us nicely into a preview of the cup final. Massive matches keep coming. Who's nailed on their place, who's got their jacket on a wobbly or a sugary peg, and where do we think all of that will pan out? So that's the that's the plan for today. We will just pop this up for a bit. And yeah, basically still second season only. Can't believe we've been going for 2 seasons. We've packed a lot into that, but we're still a new channel. So if you get the chance, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it on social media. It'd be great to have your support. Anyway, we'll get cracking. I think we'll start with Brian's view on. Do we think that was a point gained or 2 points dropped, Brian?
I think it was a point gained, and you know, I keep reverting back to the old Celtic and even the days of when Mark Viduka played for Croatia Zagreb. We were expected to win that, and we got chinned. Any point away from home at this level is a good point. Yeah, there was chances that we should have put away, and Kuhn had a chance to pass to Kyogo, but he decided to shoot. Equally, Zagreb had a couple of really good chances early on, and the strikers missed. So I think a point away in Zagreb is whilst it could be an opportunity missed. Let's take the points, and certainly the Aston Villa result the other night means they're through. So I'm hoping to God they maybe put a second string out for the game. But all in all, I was very happy with the result, albeit looking at my phone. But I watched the highlights back, and there was chances they had, there was chances we had, and we rode our luck a wee bit. And on another night it could have been 3 each.
I think that's a stretch.
There
were barely chances created to get 1 or 2 each. Never mind 3. But I take the point. I guess one thing before I come to you, Ian, I will just say on Villa. Yeah, they're probably through, as in they'll make the playoffs at least, but they will want to finish in the top 8. And to do that, they're probably going to need at least 1 more win, and maybe even something against us as well. But yeah, the more they keep winning, I think the better it will be for us in that last game. Ian, I know I saw you had a little chuckle yourself. I saw some of your social media posts in the immediate aftermath. You weren't happy. Have you calmed down and a little bit more circumspect, or what's your overall view on how it went?
You know what? I don't think it was actually that angry. I think it depends on the context we want to apply to it, right? I think anyone who watched the game, and I don't know if this came across in the highlights, Brian, the Zagreb were awful. I mean, they were terrible. Any team that needs 3 points to qualify and is actively playing for a 0-0 draw at home when their next game is AC Milan and they've got someone else like this that's really tough, it's just weird. So for me, it's a massive 2 points dropped. I mean, I can't think of a time previously, and I don't think we'll get many more, where we'll say the chance to get an away win was there on a plate. It was. And Rodgers himself said, I mean, that's the thing. Rodgers said a missed opportunity, right? And for the manager to come out and say it's a missed opportunity means it was a massive missed opportunity, because he's even vocalizing that kind of disappointment. And he said it was the kind of front third that was the issue. I would say it was the front 2/3. I think the defense was pretty decent, and goalkeeper was decent, but it was weird. It was as if Rodgers had just said, right, just go out there and just do absolutely nothing. It was like a training game, and the training was just possession based. So for me, I think it's a massive 2 points drop, because we could be sitting here especially with the results last night, we could be looking at breaking into the top half of the table now, and making the draw even easier for us. Whereas now we need that point against, the 3 points against Young Boys, and then we've got Villa. So don't get me wrong, in the other context, which is traditionally Celtic in Europe, how we've been the last decade or so, it's a good point on paper. I just think in terms of how bad Zagreb were, and I think actually their 8 points has convinced a lot of people who haven't watched them. They should have been battered by Monaco. They should have been battered by Bratislava. Somehow they got 4-1. So they really shouldn't be, they should be more the 4-5 points range. Realistically, they had a lot of luck in previous games. So, yeah, missed opportunity for me. I'm not angry because I think any away point is a good away point. It's just in that context of that game, how we've been playing, like the performances of the players, people just didn't show up. And you're like, oh my God, it's a real missed opportunity. So I'm not going to sit here throw anyone under the bus, like say it was terrible and all that sort of thing. I just it's just such a massive opportunity missed. And Zagreb were so rubbish. And we'll come on to it with the cup final, genuinely. And this will, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think Rangers are a better team than Zagreb. Do you know what I mean? And if we struggled to break down a Zagreb, God knows what we're going to do against Baldy Beale's murder ball. So,
yeah, look, my view on it is probably closer to yours than Ian than Brian's, but I think I'm going to give a wee bit of credit to Zagreb, not in so much as I thought they were brilliant, but I think their tactics were stifle, low block, and try and nick something on the break. And but for a great save by Kasper Schmeichel, they nearly did it. That Batarina kid is highly rated. I didn't think he had a great game. But there were a couple of times on the counter, they very nearly broke. He broke through that one time and he sort of ran out of legs and he didn't have any support with him. Like when he sort of did a feint on the halfway line and he took two of our players out and he was away. He didn't have the gas to run all the way in and shoot, and he didn't have much support and he sort of got crowded out in the end. It was good defending, good recovery by us. But I think the tactic for them was to let us have the ball. They were actively encouraging CV, and we'll get into this more when we touch on the game, but they were actively encouraging CCV to bring that ball out because they know he's our best defender. And he's the one that marshals and controls the defense. They wanted him out of the back line. They wanted him high up the pitch, and then they hoped they could break and get in behind. So I think they'd done their homework. They were obviously extremely stretched. They had nearly nothing on the bench, a bunch of kids, and they had some key players missing. I thought they were. So my issue was Rodgers' instructions to be more cautious than usual, or was that naturally the players' sort of on pitch decision? You saw McGregor multiple times try to rally the troops and giving the arms the windmill and trying to get the team up for it, and they were just a bit flat. And I agree with you, Ian. I think it was a missed opportunity because we played within ourselves. We were a bit timid. And if you're playing we play against the low block nearly every week. We shift the ball quickly. We move teams around. It's one touch. It's got to be in behind. And we've got to commit to doing that. I think we're spooked. I think we know that Croatian teams are technically gifted. And I think that we were really worried that they would, 1, 2, 3 passes up the pitch and lose a goal on the break. And suddenly we're up against it and we're already playing against a low block that's better than anything we see domestically. But I think there was almost an acceptance partway through that second half by the players, at least, that we would take a draw. And that's really disappointing because I agree with you. It was the best chance for an away win in a long, long time. It's 2017 since we did it. I wouldn't have wanted us to see us completely gung-ho, but just move the ball around a little bit quicker. When that one time we got really good play, we got Engels, in at the end, and there was a good bit of interlink play. I think Forrest was involved, maybe Taylor, got Engels in. And I thought he played a really good ball in, but the defender had a brilliant last gasp sort of sliding challenge. Otherwise, he just got a tap in. But we did that once or twice in the whole match. We just never really moved them around, and we were ponderous on the ball. We wanted a second, a third, a fourth touch, and then it was turn around and come back. So yeah, I'm frustrated as well, Ian. Just in terms of the actual match, it was a nightmare to watch as well. I was up at 20 to 2 in the morning to watch that shit. It was murderous, to be honest. And yeah, I think so every week that goes by, the Atalanta game and result looks a better result than ever. In a few weeks hindsight, the Bruges result doesn't look too bad. They had another good win last night. They're clearly a good side that had done their homework. Obviously, us shooting ourselves in the foot with the freak goal is the thing that sort of kills it. But there's 2 games we should probably have done better, and it's certainly last Tuesday night we should have done better against Zagreb. So I think it's definitely a missed opportunity. But I don't know. I wasn't expecting us to have 9 points by this point in the tournament, so I guess expectations shifted. Right at the beginning of the tournament, 9 points after match day 6, we'd have all bitten your hand off for that. Going to a home match with young boys who haven't won a game to have chance at 12 points with a game to spare. I don't think anyone would have complained about that. But I think the thing is, after Leipzig, there was a genuine opportunity to finish high up this table. If we played to that level again and potentially won Bruges, won in Zagreb, and then, we'll come on to the young boys game, but that's a really good opportunity there was a good opportunity for 7 or 9 points out of those games. And as it stands, we're looking at potentially 5 at best. So I think that's where the disappointment comes. Expectations move. We've all got to kind of readjust as we go, because it was heady heights thinking that was a possibility of the top 8. And it was realistic. If we played to our level, it was there for us. Look at Brest. They're up there on 13 points, floating around the top 8. And that could just as easily be us if we'd taken the points that were available. Any other thoughts in terms of just where we are at this point?
Do you think maybe some of the guys had their eye on the cup final and they were thinking, damage limitation here?
I thought about that, Brian, because I did think to myself, is there a little bit of, cup final nerves? But I don't know if you agree with me. I think a couple of the players recently have been a little bit off the boil. And I think it's more the amount of games as opposed to the cup final going, coming ahead. I think if you look at Hatate's been really off the boil. Kuhn's not really had the form that he's kind of shown. I would say McGregor's in a bit of a lull as well. I think, Paul was talking about him kind of rallying the troops. I think he was rallying himself a bit more. And Kyogo, completely off the boil as well, who's should be one of our best players. So I don't know, why did you think it's more they had an eye on the cup final, or what did you think?
Just, it's a kind of game, if they went gung ho, they could have lost the game. But then there's equally, I'm thinking to myself, even not the squad players, but the likes of McCowan and stuff, there was an opportunity for him to show what he was about, and I thought some of his decision making wasn't great. But again, they're in the moment. They're the first 11 will be bar AJ in case he's injured. The team will probably pick itself, and but the players, in the back of their mind, they're always going to have that monkey on their back, thinking, we're going to lose this. Or I'm very much into momentum. If we'd have went for the win and lost the game, we'd probably lose the final. But the fact that we've got out of there with a point, probably should have got the 3. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I think the thing is, I think with regards to, I don't think we stretched ourselves physically in that game. I don't think anyone's coming back from it. I don't think it's a tough away trip where we've had to do a lot of running, put a lot of battling in. I didn't see the usual Callum McGregor covered 16 kilometers or whatever. Usually that floats about around if we've had a really tough game. So we've not seen any of that. And now we've got not a week to rest up for the cup final, but a good couple of days. I think, the worry is kind of AJ with that. But I think I thought it was odd to not see Valle and to see Taylor in there. I'm not throwing Taylor under the bus. I think Taylor's good domestically. I just think that left back position is a kind of an indicator of how we'd play. If you see Valle there, you think, right, we're going to try and really push the, get on the ball, push the advantage home, be a bit more attacking. If you see Taylor there, it's okay, we're just going to be a little bit more safe, a little bit more kind of reserved, and that kind of that's how it panned out. I agree with all the rest of the decisions. I think it will be interesting to see if we see at any point over this fixture, let's see Bernardo do the Callum McGregor role, because I think the thing about Bernardo is he had a good game. I think he has this really great ability to put a challenge in and nick in front of a player and stuff like that. And I don't think we've seen that for a while. So I think it would be good to maybe see him in that Cal McGregor role for a couple of games, and then maybe swap Calmac forward, see if he can do a bit more of the shift going forward. I don't know if that'll happen, but yeah. Paul, you seem to be struggling there with YouTube. Are we not on YouTube today?
It doesn't look like we are. So it says we've got 61 viewers, but I assume that they are coming from YouTube, but they maybe are coming from Instagram. Kaiser's saying we're not on YouTube. the platform's telling us it's streaming to YouTube. So I don't know. But there's no comments, so I'm guessing they're probably possibly aren't going out on YouTube. So we might have to post the video after the fact. I'm probably not in a position to do much about it right now. I'll maybe.
I have checked, and we're not live on YouTube. So
okay, good
for
stuff.
some reason,
So
it's not triggered.
It's not triggered. Okay, well, look, I'll maybe ask you guys to have your thoughts on the Young Boys game. There seems to be some panic. There seems to be panic out there in the social media of Celtic fans that suddenly, having not won against Bruges and not won against Zagreb, that suddenly we might either not win or maybe even, God forbid, lose at home to Young Boys. Is that something you're concerned about, Ian?
Not in the slightest. I think, like, you know, I remember this time last year when the wheels were starting to come off a little bit in terms of that lead evaporating and stuff. And it was a different vibe. I think this time around, we've got a lot more confidence in the manager, better squad, better players, better mentality, know the system, etc. I think, you know, if anyone had offered you, if we go back to the context of the wider group, if anyone said, look, you need a win at home to Young Boys, park the fact what we know about Young Boys form, we need a win at home to Young Boys to go through, we'd have been like, we'd have bitten your hand off, because we would have been like, that is what it is. And I think, Brian, we were on a couple of weeks ago and we said, look, if you don't beat Young Boys at home, given the form that they're in and the form that we're in, then we don't deserve to go through. And I think that's still the same sentiment. I'm not, I'm not really concerned. There's a lot of games before then, so we need to kind of see if we pick up any injuries and stuff like that. But I do think that we've put ourselves in a fantastic position. Let's look at it positively. We've put ourselves in a fantastic position. We've got a fantastic squad, fantastic manager. Overall, we're playing really, really well. And I think it would be an anomaly for us not to pick up 3 points at home. We've still got to go there, manage the atmosphere and stuff. But I think it's a good experience and test for the players to, it's a big pressure game. So I think it only adds into stuff.
Absolutely.
Joe Hart,
Brian, what's your thought?
No, I was thinking there was somebody said it was Celtic's last time Celtic had 4 games in a row in Europe unbeaten was 86. I think it might have been playing Real Madrid.
No, so, two of them were against Shamrock Rovers.
Wasn't it?
I think, I think one was Dynamo Kiev. So I forget the fourth team, but those were 3 out of the 4.
Yeah,
so
it's progress. It's progress. You know, the Lazio game, we were on to win that game, and then they scored 2 in the last couple of minutes. So we're learning. We are still learning, and it was quite visible. Rodgers mentioned the word quality. We need more quality. He said, after the game, he highlighted the fact that with a bit more quality, we could have won that kind of game. You know what I mean? So I do think it's refreshing. I think there'll be a couple of boys coming in, hopefully in January. But look, this team have been going hammer and tongs since mid-July. We're now, 6 months later, we're going into the busy Christmas period. Marks out of 10, you have to give them 10 for where we are, top of the league. League. I'm going to say this, League's won with opportunity for silverware. And we're a ball hair away from getting into the next round of the next level of the Champions League. So that's everything that we wanted from the team.
Yeah, I'm in the same page. I can't see us losing to Young Boys. Kaiser makes the point. They're out, so either they'll just pack up, or maybe the shackles are off. Like, even if the shackles are off, they're having a poor season. I think they're 9th in the Swiss First Division. I think they're closer to relegation than threatening to be back in Europe. I think it's 22 goals conceded and 3 scored, something like that. So minus 19, absolutely dead last. We've got 10 games between then and now. So as Ian says, there's a lot can happen. We would want to refresh the squad. We would want to avoid some injuries. But unless we're absolutely decimated, I expect us to go and win that game and win it comfortably. The place will be absolutely rocking. And it's a must, it's not a must win. Like, draw might get us there, but the way it's shaping up, you want a win to put it safe. You definitely don't want to be going to Villa Park needing something. I'd love us to be going there on 12 points with a bit of a positive goal difference, which a win by a few goals would do. And then you can go to Villa Park and it's a free hit. It really is. And then, if they've won their next game, they're probably almost safe in the top 8. I know that I can't remember who it is, and I keep forgetting to check. They've got a big game the weekend after that game. So yeah, it's all in our hands, which is great. I sent it on the group chat earlier. We're plonked between, is it Real Madrid and Man City? We're plonked in the table. So I guess, and I cheekily wrote reality check, but there's a lot of validity in that. We're probably worse off than we hoped we would be after the flying start that we had, albeit the debacle in Dortmund. But if you're sitting between Real Madrid and Man City, regardless of how well or badly they're doing, it shows you the competitive of the tournament, and it shows you that we're well in the mix if there's teams down there. I've seen a few people trying to say that this variation of the tournament is not as exciting as the old one. I just can't see how anyone can argue that it isn't. You've got more games, you've got teams popping up at different levels of the league. PSG in the bottom 8, Man City now in danger of slipping out and not making it out of the group stage, not even getting a playoff. Even if they do stay in, they're probably still going to be in that bottom 3 or 4 spots. That means that one of the teams that finishes 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th is going to draw them early. So that if that's a big gun, that's 2 big guns against each other in the playoff before you even get to the last 16. I definitely think it opens up the tournament. So yeah, I've been really, really sort of refreshed and pleased. One, about the tournament and its new structure. 2, how it's affected us positively, and 3, how we've actually turned up and performed. Because I
agree with the structure. I agree with the structure. I think the fans that are complaining are like the traditional bully boys, that are the ones that are sounding off the most are Arsenal. That's the ones that I've heard the most. But I think the old format, what people kind of had is really the bigger teams, the teams that are in pot 1 and pot 2, kind of didn't have guaranteed, but they almost had a guaranteed qualification, because they would have 6 points. If they had, let's say they'd drawn a Young Boys and a Bratislava, they had just guaranteed points because they beat them home and away. Now, especially with the length of time it's over as well, as you are also getting teams in different periods of their form, and it's a different challenge. It's not as much of an open goal for some of the bigger teams to kind of outmuscle them. So I think it's definitely a lot better for us. Let's see how it pans out over the next couple of years, because if it continues to be that way, I'm sure you'll see a couple of requests to change the format from the traditionally bigger teams. But even if you look at the money spread now, the money that you gain from the Champions League, you mentioned Brest up there. They're going to be getting loads of money that they can reinvest in stuff. And that kind of comes back to the point of us, we really need to be in this. We really need to be making sure that we're qualifying for Europe in this format more often, because there's big opportunities here for us.
That's a good callback to last week's show when we had Gavin on from Scotland's Coefficient. If you haven't seen that episode, go back and have a look at it. Really good segment with an interview with our Gav, just on the precarious nature of where we are and the fact that we grudgingly are going to have to support all Scottish teams in Europe if we want to stand a prolonged period of being at this top table. Because if we drop out of the top 15, there's a good chance of being stuck in oblivion for extended periods. So next year, it looks like we're going to have to go through one qualifying round, although we will be seeded. So it's imperative we get through that and get back into this format again. And then after that, a good showing this year by us and the others, and in the same next year, might stave off Armageddon. But that's the nature of what we're dealing with, especially when we've got teams that qualify for Europe and then don't really do anything once they get there. Teams like Kilmarnock and St Mirren, because we're then carrying that multiplier of 5 teams and only having 2 or 3 teams contributing. We spent a lot of time on that. We will just briefly touch on the game. Ian, thoughts on per individual performances. We've talked enough about how we performed as a unit and a team. Thoughts on individual performances, both on the night and I guess looking ahead and thinking ahead to the cup final and beyond.
Yeah, Schmeichel in the back line, great. So I thought Ralston did okay when he came on. Obviously, he's not AJ's level, but I think he did okay. I think, Taylor's getting a lot of heat, and I understand the heat that Taylor's getting because, he did one pass against Aberdeen. He was, he could have walked on water to a section of the fan base. When he's in that team, he just, his first thought is always backwards. And I think that's just at odds with someone like Vai, whose first thought is always forwards. And I think as a support, we want the one that's first thought is forwards. Rodgers obviously going to make that call. I think he's a shoe-in to start against them in the cup final just because he's got that experience, and I'd probably agree with that. I think AJ missing is probably going to be a big thing because I would expect the murder ball to focus on dropping balls into the channels. So I think if we've got Taylor and Ralston there, I think it's, that would concern me because I think that's their only genuine weapon they've got, and that's probably going to be our weakest area. The midfield, weird one. Like I said, I think Kalmak was off the boil. I think Hatate's decision making was stinking on the night. There was a time he should have shot, and then he overhit an easy pass to Bernardo. I think Hatate was really, really, really poor. And I think as a consequence of the midfield not functioning, then you see Maeda drop out the game because they're not finding Maeda. You see Kyogo dropping out the game because they're not finding Kyogo. They found Kuhn, but, again, their defender kind of marshaled him pretty well. So that kind of nullified that, and then we weren't able to find it. Even when Ida came on, there wasn't much of a difference. So I think, I wouldn't be surprised to see the same team go out and start the cup final, and I think that would be warranted, minus AJ, depending on how the injury is. But much like young boys at home, I don't think we should be losing a cup final to this Rangers side. This Rangers side are absolutely stinking. They are terribly coached. The manager is is possibly the biggest dafty the new club has had. Like, he's delusional. He doesn't seem to be able to train players. The tactics are terrible. And like I said, it's all going to be pumping those balls into the corner.
They're coming. They're coming in. The real Rangers are coming. They're coming.
No, I mean, no. I think they've found that, like, that young boy who hasn't yet been torn apart by the support and had his confidence done is, like, I think is putting in a shift, as he called Igamani, and I think that will be the thing. I think he'll just be told, go beside Taylor or Ralston, we'll just drop balls into there and then just try and run at them, and that's where the problem will come from. And I think if we can all see that, Rodgers will be able to see it, and that's how well we deal with it. But I mean, again, I don't really think there's any other. They're not going to come to Hampden and play us off the park. I can't see it, and if they did, like, shame on us. I don't think we should be losing to this iteration of Rangers at all. I think they're terrible, absolutely terrible.
Sorry, Brian. With Celtic Bangkok saying the pitch was terrible in Zagreb, at Hampden we'll see a much different performance. We haven't touched on the pitch, and you don't like to use that as an excuse, but it was a few players mentioned, couple of players mentioned it in interviews, and Rodgers mentioned it. Hard to see on the telly, but we certainly didn't look hard. Maybe that's one of the reasons why we wanted an extra 1 or 2 touches. But I still think we should...
Like, overhitting a pass is not the pitch. A bobble is the pitch. Like, passing when you should be shooting and stuff like that. I think the pitch would be too convenient an excuse. I think, yes, it might not have been great, and the Hampden pitch might suit us. The space at Hampden might suit us a bit more as well, definitely. But again, regardless, let's put it this way: the other thing is, it's completely different. It's a cup final. It's a cup final against, traditionally our rivals. Probably not our rivals for the league this season because they're just so exceptionally poor. And in a one-off game, anything can happen. Like, that's the caveat. Anything can happen. But really, I mean, my God, if we lose to them this season, I think it would be the disappointment in Zagreb would be nothing comparing to losing to this iteration of Rangers in the cup final, given how bad they are.
That's fair. Before we get too far into the cup final, I want to just concentrate on a couple more other performances from the game the other night. I thoughts on Bernardo. You're right, Ian, the midfield didn't really function, but I thought he had a good game considering. He was neat and tidy on the ball, offered himself, good running, closed down well, just kind of growing at the spot. And I McCowan's obviously cup tied on Sunday. Is there any chance of anyone displaced? Does Engels had a bit of a cameo and he was involved in two of our better moments late on? Is there any chance that Engels knocks either Hatate or Bernardo out of the mix? And if it is, which one would you think that's more likely to be the case?
I think Engels and Bernardo and McGregor are nailed on. I think Hatate has to take a bit of, we can't in the final let them get a sniff. I know they're ranked rotten, and we all remember, if they play Spurs tonight, whereas we're sitting resting, we're on the massage table, watching the game, analysing things. They have to go and play the Spurs, and as much as I'm not his biggest fan after he left us, but Postecoglou is like Rodgers. He's got a bit of pride about him, and he'll want to do them tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
They go either way. We don't like talk about them, but if they had 5 not taking it home, then
we're just losing you. We're just losing you a wee
Sorry.
bit there, Brian. Ian, I think we lost. Ian, I think we lost you briefly there, just at the start of that question. Yeah, Brian thinks Engels is a set to start. Hatate dropping out. You said earlier you think the game might continue. Your team that started Zagreb might start again. Anything to sway you that Engels could break in, and if so, who's he likely to displace?
No. I think there's a balance to the midfield with Bernardo nicking the ball and Hatate being the one that plays the forward passes. I think if we bring Engels in there, look, I've seen a few people try and throw him under the bus online, which is to me is utter insanity to be throwing a 21-year-old Belgian international and questioning him. When he came in, Rodgers said, 2 games a week and the pressure are going to be after big things for him to adjust to. And it's going to take time because he's a young guy. So I wouldn't be doing that. I think, he did come on and have a good cameo. I don't think the way that Rodgers sets up, he's going to replace Hatate, because I think we need Hatate in there to play those balls and things. So I wouldn't, I can't see Engels displacing either of them in the team, but I could see him coming in for sure.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, and David Clarkson is on saying the same. I believe we're up and running on YouTube. I've no idea what happened, guys. All the texts at this end said that we're live on YouTube, but it's taken till about 30 odd minutes before it's showing up there. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to any of you. Sean Buist's with us as well. I'm hoping that others will join us as we go. But yeah, I tend to agree with you and David that I think Hatate, despite the fact he seems to have been a bit erratic, he had a poor game against Aberdeen, and then he came up with a moment of magic that pretty much no one else in the squad could do, and it wins us the game. So I was kind of hoping he might redeem himself again the other night with a similar bit of skill or magic to win that match, but it wasn't to be two times running. But I kind of agree. It seems weird that when we were that far off the pace that the same 11 will get another chance, but I think you're probably right, and hopefully AJ makes it. I don't know if I've not seen anything yet, anything further from other than Rodgers saying that it was his hip and he looked like he hoped he would make it. I was a bit relieved when I read that and heard that, because the way that the sort of challenge came together, I thought it was maybe a twisted knee, because his leg got kind of tangled and a bit twisted. So I did worry that it could have been a knee injury, but yeah, hopefully he can shrug it off. He didn't have that good a game either, but he's been fantastic this season. So hopefully he does play. Any other performances in Zagreb that you think? I think Austin Trusty and CCV, from a defensive point of view, like you said, that partnership's really starting to come together. I've heard there was an interview on Celtic TV, if you haven't already seen it. Austin Trusty was basically saying it's a great opportunity for them as a partnership that are both American to kind of build a partnership. And I guess they're thinking if they can build that really successfully, they can almost be a drop-in option of internationally and really push them both their international careers on. And that, you know, you'd think for a coach, an international coach, that would be a really good option. And I just think that they're slowly but surely starting to look a really strong partnership. They complement each other well. I think CCV is not a slouch, but I think Trusty has got pace. I think he's probably the better passer, albeit that I think, as I said earlier, that both Zagreb and Bruges were encouraging CCV to come out with the ball, and he almost sort of seemed to get a bit spooked with having too much time and space to make a decision. I thought we were a bit going back to Zagreb. I thought we were a bit static in front of the players with the ball deep. Like there wasn't a lot of movement. Kyogo would make an occasional run and not get seen, which is one of my pet peeves. But generally, the players around him, both in midfield and in the wing, were pretty static, and there wasn't too much movement. So we need to be a bit sharper and moving. We will move on to the cup final now. We've started to ease into it. I see the usual stuff. Their fans, a couple of wins, and they're world beaters again. I've heard them say that, you know, both Bruges and Zagreb, terrible teams. They've played better and beaten better. If they turn up on the day, you know, the cup final and the cup and it is theirs. It smacks of the classic delude them all from them. I was really hoping we'd go and turn up and spank them. We have gone off the boil a little bit. There's no better time to, I guess, pick it up again. But I do feel like a little bit of this sort of 2 games a week is starting to take its toll. Are we in any way, shape, or form concerned about what they bring to the game, Brian?
Nothing. Even if we're 1-0 down, 92 minutes to go, I still fancy us to win. They're rank rotten. They have a shite manager. They're going to get chinned tonight. We have all the, you know, it's our pitch. Hampden's our pitch. It's our second home. We'll go and we'll win. I think we'll win. I think we'll have. I don't know who the referee is. I always say this. The referee's pivotal, but
obviously, of course.
I don't know who VAR is. I'm assuming it'll be Andrew Dallas.
I think it's Steve McLean.
Well, I mean,
and they've got Coot on your guy from the Premier League. Coot, he's on VAR. If he can get his head off the table. No, I really don't think they've. And I think tonight will be the nail in their coffin. I think they will get hammered tonight by Spurs, and then it's just a case of us. And I don't want to sound arrogant. I'm not sounding arrogant, but there's not one player in their squad, probably in the last 10 years, you would take over any of our players, and they will shit. Excuse my French. They will. Once they arrive, they'll see all their fans and they'll just go, they'll just bottle it, as they always do. They will bottle it. They always bottle it. But they're coming. They're coming. Yeah.
Ian, thoughts on... here's a question for you. Is there any chance of them coming out and trying to go toe-to-toe with us and trying to take the game to Celtic?
I go back to the fact it's a one-off game, right? So the caveat to all this is it's a one-off game against traditionally strong rivals. I know they're ranked this season, and you know this version of them is like a pale imitation of the ones we grew up with, and the majority of their fans grew up with. From what I've seen, I don't think Baldy Beale has it in him to come up with like some sort of tactical masterclass, because the guy, I mean, it's a miracle. I mean, it's a miracle he's got as far as he has in coaching, because there none of the fans of Rangers can tell you what like the tactics are, what the plan is, or what he's saying. So I mean, a casual watcher like a couple of games a season when they're up against us, or if you catch something in Europe, I don't know. So I don't, as I said earlier, I fully expect it to be long balls into the channels, because I think anyone that kind of scouts us knows that's our area, long ball. I mean, Taylor's woeful at them, and if AJ doesn't make it, Ralston's going to struggle with it again. I think any team's going to kind of struggle with that, and that's what I expect. I expect long balls into the channels. Apart from that, I don't know what else he'll think to kind of target. I go back to the fact we should not be losing the cup final to this iteration of Rangers. They are absolute murder. The majority of their players are terrible, and they should be in a much worse position in the league than they're in. They've benefited from a couple of teams like shiting the bed against them. So one-off game is the caveat. The anything could happen. Like there could be a rogue handball, etc., etc. But I just think there's no real objective evidence to say that we shouldn't be winning that game comfortably if we turn up and put in the performance that we know we should do. So I'm not nervous now. I probably will be like 5 minutes before kickoff just because it's a cup final. But the logical part of my brain, no, they're so poor.
Do they even have a hard man player now? Remember, because I know that's the tactics. They'll go in all guns blazing. They'll try and trample Kyogo. Your guy Tom, is it not Daly? The guy played for Derby.
Tom Lawrence.
Tom Lawrence.
I don't know if he's. I know they've got Connor Barron. I don't think Connor Barron's I think Connor Barron, to all intents and purposes, if you listen to the Rangers fans, is the next, Lothar Matthäus. But I don't know if he's a hard man. Like when they played against us last time, I don't think they really had anyone who was like kind of the hard man. I think Lundstrom went, and they just weren't able to pick up any journeyman from England to kind of fill that role.
Yeah, so Diamandi throws it around a bit. Sterling throws it about a bit, but
Diamandi guy's like a red card waiting to happen if in the right circumstances. He's less of a hard man and more of a sort of like wee guy putting in stupid challenges. Yeah.
I was 2 or 3 weeks ago when we were, and it is only like, this is how quickly it changes. 4 weeks ago, we were flying. Look, Kuhn was on fire. We looked great. We had multiple players that could swap in and out. And we were winning games really, really comfortably, and they were miles off the pace. They've won a couple of games reasonably comfortably. The Nice game was a bit weird, and I can't remember who they played in Ross County. They 5 or 6 past Ross County.
No, it was Kilmarnock. It was a Derek McInnes managed.
Kilmarnock, that's right. And then was it 2 or 3 up at Dingwall the other week? So they've stuck 2 or 3 results together. Yeah, I'm not overly concerned. I'm more concerned about what we do than anything they do. I think to your point, Ian, they are not going to have any masterful tactics. They're not going to do anything radical that we haven't seen before. It's really about how well we show up on the day, and really tempo. When we play high tempo, accurate passing, which we've done for a good chunk of the season, no team in Scotland, including them, can live with us. We gubbed Aberdeen 6-0 in the semi, for God's sake. Like, if we can get anywhere close to that level of performance again, it could be a not dissimilar score. But I do worry that this sort of 2 games a week, almost 3 games a week, that's sort of relentless over the last few weeks, is starting to take its toll a little bit. And because there's been a sort of reluctance to rotate every part of the squad, we've sort of been overly reliant on players like Cal McGregor, Alistair Johnston, 2 or 3 others. You do run the risk of a little bit of fatigue. Kuhn's probably played more than he should have. And I think, and we weren't scheduled to discuss this, but we'll just quickly touch on this because it's not far away. I think that really highlights where we should be trying to do some business in January, because if we can't rotate those key parts of the squad because we're not confident of what can come in, then we absolutely need to try and fix that ASAP. And there isn't a full trust in Ralston like for like, which is fair enough. He's not at the same level. There seems to be a reluctance to swap the skipper out, and I get it, but he's the wrong side of 30. He's played 60, 70 games for 6 years on the spin, or 7 years, something stupid. It's not that long ago he played the most games in Europe or the world in one season. and he didn't even go into the latter stages of European football. We really need to try and rest him a bit more often. And I think both Bernardo and Engels can probably play that position, possibly not in the biggest of games, but in your run-of-the-mill league games they can. And we don't know what's happening with Taylor. We don't know what's happening with Vi long term. So I'd say fullbacks, wing, potentially longer term a midfielder. Yeah, well, it looks like Kenny is going to potentially get an option. The Daniel Cummins, then I put this on Blue Sky this morning. The Daniels Cummins thing is concerning me because there seems to be no offer. It's not even just there's an impasse on a negotiation. It doesn't look like there's an updated offer for him, and he's coming out of contract. He's got 23 goals in 20 games.
The Daniel Kelly situation, Paul. This is the thing. Like we've said this, Aidan McGeady was in that team because he was good enough. Right? Aidan McGeady could not be put in that team because he was good enough. He's scoring loads of goals, and we're struggling a bit in terms of Ida and Kyogo. So you'd expect that to be in. It smacks of Daniel Kelly to me. There's obviously something going on that we're not aware of. Daniel Kelly's sitting on the Millwall bench now. Do you know what I mean? So he's not good enough to break into a Millwall team. If he'd stayed with us, he wouldn't be good enough to break into our team. So I think we just need to kind of trust the process a bit in that. Your Kenny has done well in Europe as well, so he probably is a good option to come in. A good, especially for the last 6 months, because I don't think we need to do anything dramatic. I think the dramatic thing needs to be the left back. I think we need to move Bernabei out while his stock is like pretty high. If Taylor isn't going to sign a new contract, let's get that number one left back in there ASAP. But again, I don't like to, sound like a bored shill here, but January is a difficult window to do business because not a lot of a lot of people have half a season left to go, so we might not be able to get the player we want, and we have to make a compromise. I think Valle, if we can keep him, that's going to be a bonus because there was rumours of Barcelona taking him back. So
yeah, so it looks like he's staying at least until the summer. But there's certainly no likelihood he's going to stay beyond that if he doesn't get more game time. And I was crying out for him to be introduced the other night because, as you say, and he would have produced forward passes, a bit more urgency. And yeah, potentially like I thought he would start, to be honest, given how well he came off the bench against Bruges and sort of helped turn the tide in that game and got us back into the match. I was a little bit surprised to see Taylor start, but clearly
there's a rumor that he was injured. There's a rumor that he's carrying a little niggle. I mean, that's that's a Glasgow rumor. He's carrying, and that's why he actually came off. It wasn't the yellow card at Aberdeen. It was the fact that he's carrying a little bit of an injury. But he's still making the bench, so it's like that. There may be a kind of a trade-off because it's not your player, right? It's Barcelona's player, so you don't want to risk it too much, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. We're coming up towards the hour. In terms of the cup final, Ian, you said you'll go with the same side. Brian, you think you'll see Engels for Hatate. Have you got any other changes that you think will happen?
I just think they're absolutely shit scared of Maida, and I don't see us again Ralston AJ. If AJ's anyway a doubt, I wouldn't play him. I'd play Ralston. The more I think about it, probably Engels will be on the bench because Hatate will be playing those balls into Kyogo, and they're afraid. Kyogo scares the life out of them as well. And I think we'll be 2 or 3 up first half and just bring the boy like Jamesy and all on. I really do. I've no fear in these guys. I've no fear. It's difficult 2 games a week to get yourself. It's hard to motivate yourself sometimes to play beautiful, scintillating football. But this will be our park. We love the big pitch. We have the players. Dessers is going to come in and maybe throw the weight about, but he'll get him and your and there's nobody. As somebody said, I think it was 420 something, or Craig Young said, they don't even have any players that you hate anymore. Like we used to hate. I used to hate Barry Ferguson and your man the Hammer and all that.
It's the opposite, Brian. I feel sorry for some of them now. Like I asked myself sorry for something. Like
No.
see Taverny, I was like, oh my god, like there was the other day, like when he was getting abused for stuff, I was like, these guys have put him in such a pedestal, put him in the Hall of Fame, and now they're like abusing him in the street, and I was like, oh man, it's a bit shady. And then like I came back to my senses. But you're right, there's no one in that team. I mean, like I struggled to actually remember the names of some of the team.
Yeah.
But there's no one that you hate.
They hate playing. They play the best. They play away from home because they don't have their fans on their back. So the 4-0 game in Nice, and the 6-0 away to Ross County, 6-0 away to Kilmarnock. It's their own worst enemy is themselves, their fans. Yeah.
I think Kilmarnock was home, but I think because of the storm, the stadium was half empty. So I think maybe that helped a bit as well. Yeah. And Derek McInnes wanting a belly rub.
yeah, it's another interview process. So look, I think we'll be. I think we should be good come Sunday. There's a few people mentioned it in the comments, and Brian mentioned it earlier. They are playing Spurs tonight, so there's a two-day gap in terms of recovery. So yeah, there's a good chance they'll be chasing things tonight. I'm not as confident as some people are, and you are, Brian, that they'll get scalped tonight. Spurs are all over the place to some degree. Like even their second, yeah, they did, but but look, that was about 2 or 3 games ago, and they've lost. I think most games since.
Paul is an arrogant, proud man, and he will want to remind the Sevconians.
I don't doubt that he'll be bang up for it. And even his sort of younger players that will be making up a good chunk of the squad, you would expect them to be better than what they've got out tonight. But yeah, it'd be good. It'd certainly be good to see to Ange and Spurs to give them a bit of a doing in the run up to the cup final, and obviously then 2 less days to recover. But yeah, last point, I guess. Where are we all watching it? Ian, are you going to be in the Rummer?
Yeah, the Rummer. Cardiff's number 1. Cardiff is green and white. So yeah, opposite the castle. So if anyone's down, I mean, if anyone's mad enough to be in Cardiff city centre, at this time of Christmas, like fair play to you. Come in and get out the madness and the Rummer. Yeah, we'll be watching it in there. Hopefully, a good crowd. We always, for a cup final, we always get like a bit of a boost because people do traveling a bit further, and I imagine there'll be people in the valleys and stuff like that who'll be kind of saying to their other half, "Oh, we could do a bit of the shopping and stuff." Good excuse to get in there. So we'll be hopefully a packed Rummer and hopefully happy faces at the end.
Cool, Brian. I'll come to you in a minute. Before I do that, just a couple of things. We've got both Drink Along boys in the comments. So Dano, I popped you out. Dano, good to see you. Kaiser was in earlier on. I hadn't seen him for a little bit. Can one or either of you just let me know if we are having a cup final drink along? I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that are keen on that. I know Gav's still away. I'm not sure if he's going to sanction it in his absence, but I'm sure we'd love to see a cup final drink along. So let us know, guys, if you can. We've got, what else we're talking about? CSCs. I think I saw one more. David, who is at Bangkok CSC and who joins us now and again. They've got their Christmas dinner at 7:30 local time and then on to the final. Now, I think, and I might be wrong on this, I think the final for them will be 10:30, which is not a bad kickoff time. Not ideal. But 10:30 p.m. is not too bad.
Right. You know what? They're going to be watching turkeys and the Rangers team and eating turkey.
They're eating turkeys beforehand and watching turkeys afterwards. Completely unplanned. Excellent work. Well done, Ian. Brian, what are you doing for the game? Where are you watching it? In the house? Are you in the pub?
I'll probably be in the house, and I think I might dial in for the second half of the drink along. Just let's get us 2 or 3 up for it. No, the 2 boys do a fantastic job, Dano and Kaiser, and it's always great crack. The problem is if I go into the mix, there'll be no football talk. So I'll watch the first half and join the boys maybe in the second half for the drink along. The
as yet unconfirmed
unbeaten. But they're unbeaten. Celtic are unbeaten in every drink along. I think that
So
was the stats. They've never been beaten, so I don't want to
So-
scupper that, by me coming along.
So we must have a drink along for a cup final on that
We need
basis.
it,
Craig Young has given us some very erudite commentary. Gobble gobble. I'm assuming he's meaning the turkeys by the emoji and nothing else. David has confirmed it's 10:30 in Bangkok.
Let me just give you a turkey fact. Always nice to have a random fact. Do you know that turkeys, if they get flustered or embarrassed or scared, they actually go red? So they've got white skin and the blood rushes up and they blush and they get all flustered. So turkeys, yeah, there you go. There's a little fact. For your Christmas dinners, you can say when you're tucking into the turkey, before this one had its head chopped off, it was probably blushing and really, really red.
Turkeys can pull a beamer. Oh. Well, there you go. I don't. What? I don't. I'm not even going to go down the rabbit hole of asking what's going to embarrass a turkey to the point where it gets flustered and goes red. I suppose that's better than the usual leg or a breast man. So well done, Ian, on elevating the conversation around the dinner table. Going Yourself is telling us that it's 2:30 a.m. Monday morning for him in Sydney. That is a killer. I wouldn't be surprised if those Sydney boys have still got it on in the pub in the city. I'm sure they have.
Could you imagine if it went the extra time? And then Steve trying to go into work.
Well, if Monday isn't a game, if Monday isn't a day for working from home in the last week before Christmas after a cup final, I don't know what is. I will absolutely be working from home on Monday. I doubt there'll be much work getting done in the first few hours of the day. It's an 11:30 kickoff here in Perth. I'll be in the CSC with a couple of my good mates. Prior to that, we'll be having Christmas dinner in an Irish pub along the road. 8:30 we're booked for Christmas dinner, so a good 3 hours of turkey and Guinness before the game. So
you'll be asleep.
No. We always have a nice little warm up. Sometimes it's 2 hours, sometimes it's 3 hours. It's quite often 4 hours prior to kickoff. So first half's usually reasonably compass met. The second half can get a little bit hazy, but that's okay. As I've said before, I think I've said before on this, a few pints before our Rangers Celtic game, a derby match really takes the edge off. As Ian says, there's not much stress in these days, but there's always a little bit in the gut. So yeah, if you have a sink of 3, 4, 5 pints beforehand, you just the nerves are diminished and the boisterous nature is up and the gung-ho confidence is there. I can heartily recommend it. So yeah, 3:30. Is it 3:30? Is it no 5:30? 3:30 kickoff? Is that right?
3:30. Yeah, 3:30.
Pain in the ass. Honestly, TV companies have absolutely shafted the overseas support this year. But I guess it's not about us. It's about TV companies and money. We'll finish. We're over the hour just about. Thanks to everybody in the comments. Again, apologies for I don't know what happened with the stream. I was getting the technicals were saying we were live on YouTube, but clearly we weren't immediately. So thanks for bearing with us and joining in. The full thing will be available to watch back if you can be bothered. There was some brilliant stuff in that first 35 minutes that you missed. Yeah, as I said earlier on, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. We're still a new channel, second year in operation. We're still trying to boost the numbers. As Gaff always tells us, we're the blue sky of Celtic YouTube, the plucky up and comer. Just before we finish, I will get a scoreline prediction from each of you. Brian, final score.
3-1 to us. I think they'll get a ridiculous decision somewhere along the line. Tav free kick or Tav pen. But I think definitely we'll win 3-1.
Cheers, Brian. Ian.
I will say 2-1. I will say 2-1. I think, the toll of playing the games and it being a cup final, I think it might be a bit edgy. So I think 2-1. Yeah, let's go with that.
It's a bit of confidence in Bangkok. Maybe they've started early. 5-1 to the good guys. Pork Chop Express. So good to see you. Casper saving a penalty. We're going to win 2-0. Square Sausage Make agrees with you, Ian. 2-1 to the Hoops. Smell the Glove. 7-1 in the 7-1 Cup. I'd take that. And I'm going to agree with McLaughlin P. I hope and expect maybe expects a bit much. I'm hoping that we all pull it back together. The extra days of rest and the big pitch all come together. If we can get out of the traps early, I think we can go and win the game comfortably. So we'll go for 3-0. I think, as always, against the teams that want these weaker teams that want to play a low block, if we can score early, if we score, they're probably going to sit in, aren't they? They're going to make it difficult. If it's good enough for Dinamo Zagreb, it's probably good enough for that lot. So yeah, hopefully we can get into them and score early. Gents, absolute pleasure having you on. Thanks for being involved. Thanks to everyone in the comments for your patience and for your contribution once you came along. We will be back on Monday to review the cup final. I think Gav is back Monday, so the lunatics have taken over the asylum for a couple of weeks and 4 shows, but him and Dors will be back to bring a steady hand and more discipline to the overall contribution. So we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for being on, gents, and hail hail.